Well, the U.S. officially re-enters the Paris Climate Agreement today. Former President Trump withdrew the country from its accord with world powers dedicated to lowering greenhouse gas emissions around the planet. But on his first day in office, President Biden signed an executive order to bring the U.S. back to what he says is, quote, the #1 issue facing humanity. So for more on this, we want to bring in CBS News climate and energy reporter Cara Korte to find out exactly what this means. So, the Trump administration pulls the U.S. out of the Paris Accord, and I think a lot of people probably thought at the time that that was it, but it actually took sort of a whole year before the U.S. was actually officially legally out of the accord, only to be back in the accord just a few months later after the Biden administration took over. So what exactly does it mean to re-enter this agreement at this point?
Yeah, and Marie, it's like a confusing breakup, right? You say you're going to break up. It takes a while. That's kind of what happened with the United States and the Paris Agreement. But that's part of that speaks to part of what makes the agreement interesting, which is that it's a contract, it's a treaty, and it has certain rules, and people can elect to come in or come out as they want, but it has to happen on a certain timeline. Now, what is the United States getting itself back into? Well, the treaty is a accord signed right now by 189 countries that make up more than 97% of the world's greenhouse gas emissions. And that's important because the intention of the Paris Agreement is to lower the global temperature. We talk about global warming. This is what we mean. The global temperatures are rising as compared to what's known as pre-industrial levels, which is before the Industrial Revolution, about 150 years ago. And it is a small fraction, but it's a significant fraction. And scientists believe that if the world gets to 2 degrees warmer on a global average as compared to these pre-industrial levels, we will have reached a point of no return. It's a catastrophic point that will mean horrible things for all different parts of the world. And so the intention of the agreement is to focus in on emissions for all countries around the world and to make sure that we stay what they say well below this 2 degrees Celsius increase over a matter of the next 100 years.
So President Biden, says, as we sort of said in the intro, that he takes climate change very, very seriously. You mentioned greenhouse gas emissions. I know there's a push towards carbon neutrality, but what exactly does this mean beyond the Paris Accord when he says he takes it seriously?
Yeah, it's interesting, Anne-Marie, because when you read the agreement, I encourage everyone to read it. It's not very long at all. It's only about 27 pages. The integral metric, kind of the spine of the agreement, is this kind of measurement called nationally determined contribution, also known as NDCs. And NDCs are what guide the Paris Agreement. It's what guides every country in making its goals. The whole agreement is focused on creating change over time through nationally determined goals, these NDCs. And so the United States, every 5 years, just like every other country that's in the agreement, has to set new NDCs to show that they're progressing, to show that their ambitions are growing, to show that progress is going to be made over time. And it's important to note what President Biden has said, that climate change is one of their top 4 pillars of this administration. And so what that means in practicality, if you want to talk the talk and walk the walk as it pertains to the Paris Agreement, is that the United States has to put up strong NDC goals when this agreement is renewed every 5 years, and it's going to be renewed later this year in November. So keep an eye out for what the Biden administration does with their NDCs. I was told yesterday that announcement we can expect sometime this spring, most likely centered around Earth Day. And it's important for the United States to show strong leadership in this declaration in order to show the validity of the Paris Agreement, but also show the United States' seriousness in tackling climate change.
So you just brought up something that was going to sort of lead right into my next question, which is what it means for the world to have the U.S. rejoin. This country is the second largest, I believe, emitter of greenhouse gas emissions, China being the first. To get the U.S. back in this accord, what does it mean?
Yeah, you're exactly right, Emery. We are the second largest global emitter. China basically doubles our emissions, and we are followed by the rest of the European Union. This is extremely important for the United States to get back into the Paris Agreement. I spoke yesterday to Todd Stern, who was the special climate envoy for the Obama administration, and he was actually the chief negotiator for the U.S. during the Paris Agreement talks, which, by the way, took many years. It just kind of culminated in the final agreement in 2015. He said this means a hell of a lot for the United States to be back in it. He explained it this way. He said, you know, it's kind of, when the United States is part of any global agreement, it's kind of like the life of the party finally showing up. Everyone gets excited. Oh, yes, this person is here. Oh, great, the United States is involved in this. And he said, when that life of the party doesn't come, everyone's kind of let down. They're kind of asking themselves, why are we even here? This was how Todd explained it to me. And I thought that was really, really interesting, because he's been at every table having to do with the Paris Agreement. So that's what it means. It means that the global community can count on the United States to lead in fighting the climate crisis. And it also, as I said before, it solidifies, it kind of legitimizes the Paris Agreement. We've seen climate accords come and go in the past before. And so it's important 5 years later now for the United States to reaffirm its belief in the Paris Agreement, so that other countries, particularly China, who emits so much more than really the rest of the world, to fall in line and to be leaders as well.
I think that the U.S. being the life of the party at the Paris Accord, those are the seeds of an SNL skit right there. You've got something there. I think you should workshop it. Cara, thank you very much.
Thanks, Anne Marie.